that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Energy Week. What is this, Tom? It's our number 329.
329,
Our
yes.
329th show, not all of which are regular shows because we've got a few specials and they're not all that many, but we've been at this for a while. And
I'm trying to find my mouse here.
Tom's trying to find a mouse.
I got the mouse. I'm trying to find the...
He's trying to find a mouse cursor.
there we go.
Okay, every day I get up and I go to the internet and I find whatever news I can on energy and climate change, and I find a lot of stuff. Typically look at 400, 450 headlines, just trying to find the ones that I want to post. And I post 10 to 15. Usually these days it is 15. I don't want to post more than 15.
Yeah, it's usually 3 days.
Well, yeah,
you've cut down a little bit. Yeah.
I do about 15 articles a day at the blog, and then out of those I'll extract 3 for this show. So this is the best of the blog, as you say. Anyway, the articles are put together, a synopsis, short synopsis with a link to the original article, and they're posted at my website, which is geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com. You can go there and find one of the things that we're talking about and get a link to the original articles if you want to read more. And we are starting on July 25th, which is today being the first. We're filming this.
We're starting last week.
On the 1st of August. We're starting a week ago today. And before we go on, I want to...
here comes the commercial, folks.
Yeah, we have a very short commercial at every show. We have to come up with $480 to keep this show going for the next year, and so far we have had 240 in donations, which is exactly the same amount we had last week. We haven't had any new ones.
No new ones.
I had a thought, which was, this show is uploaded and downloaded by other public access stations, and I believe there's about 20 stations that access it usually.
Well, it's all the local ones, I know that.
All the local ones, but you know,
there's some distant ones
it's
too.
downloaded in other parts of the country, and it occurred to me that if the entire audience for each of those stations donated $15, you know,
we'd be in.
We'd be in. That's $15 for everybody in whatever town it is.
In the town, $15 for town.
Yeah, and so far we've had about $15 from Brattleboro. I used to offer books, you know, you could get one of the books that I published.
And nobody wanted them.
Nobody wants those books. I did finish a new one. It's called Where Heaven and Earth Meet, and I'm not going to describe it because it would be just too long, and what people really tune into the show for is not my books.
Well,
anyway.
as you mentioned, we got a lot of stuff to look at, and some of these things, I read them all, you know. Some of these things are really worth reading or pursuing. I'll try to alert you.
The first one is
good. The first one's very good.
Yeah, the first one is, let's put the picture up on this.
All righty.
And we've got a non-cooperative computer here. Yeah, no, computers are just not cooperative. Come on, what are you doing? Let's do this. There we go. Got it.
Okay.
There's the picture. Anybody recognize this plant?
And it said, well, for what it's worth, that is hemp.
That is hemp.
And the article says the cheapest way to save the planet grows like a weed.
That hemp, by the way, is commercial hemp. And if you try drying the leaves and smoking it, I am told you will not notice any effect.
Well, if you smoke enough of it, you will be. You probably get sick first.
Okay, one of the fastest ways to sequester carbon dioxide is in widespread cultivation. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble. saying things. Widespread cultivation of industrial hemp, which is what that is, the non-intoxicating form of cannabis grown for fiber, cloth, oil, food, and so on. And you can go down to the co-op and buy hemp seed to eat, I think.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Hemp grows to 13 feet tall in 100 days, making it one of the fastest CO2 to biomass conversion tools available.
Well, walking over here, I passed a small little hemp garden.
Yeah, it's all over the place now.
The plants are about 10 feet tall there.
Yeah. Vermont has made it easy to grow this stuff, and the federal government isn't excited about it anymore. And so it's being grown all over the place. And the fact that there are states that are legalizing the what do they call it? The something use of marijuana. The not medical.
Non-medical.
It's the non-medical use. Anyway.
Well, hemp is now legal to grow in the United States.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Yeah, but not pot.
Not pot yet.
Although you can get away with it in some places.
Well, this is by a woman named Ellen Brown, who usually writes financial stuff. And
yes.
She's smart, she's very good, and this is a very good article.
It is indeed. It's a very good article, and it is looking at this from a serious point of view and looks at the numbers about how much carbon dioxide can be taken out of the air and what you can use it for. And food is an important aspect of this because the hemp seeds have important nutritional use.
There's a lot of stuff you can do with hemp.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff.
And, a lot of people have pointed out that George Washington grew hemp.
Oh, yeah. Well, at one time it was illegal in the United States not to grow it.
Was it?
And Henry Ford made a car with a body made of hemp.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a demonstration.
There was a time in the state of Vermont when a law was passed, and I understand that it is still on the books as a law that could be enforced. When you went to church on Sunday morning, you were required to take your musket with you.
Well, this is a long article. There's some good stuff I'm going to read because I made so many notes on this.
Yeah.
Okay, and the first one is the top part of it. Plants are by far the cheapest and most efficient way to tackle a climate crisis.
Oh, yeah,
and
absolutely.
we've talked about that before. We're going to talk about it again.
Absolutely.
As trees grow, they absorb and store carbon dioxide in their trunks and roots.
Yeah.
1 trillion trees could be planted globally without encroaching on cropland or urban areas for as little as $300 billion. That's nothing.
They
spend that every morning before breakfast.
Yeah, I suppose.
But trees grow slowly. Okay, so the projected restoration could take 50 or 100 years.
Right.
However, okay, hemp absorbs more CO2 per acre than trees.
Yeah.
Okay, and it can be grown on a wide scale in nutrient-poor soils, very small amounts of water, and no fertilizers. It was legalized on a national scale when Trump signed the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018, so you can grow it anywhere.
Wow.
Federally legal. In addition, biodegradable and non-toxic hemp products can replace petrochemical-based plastics, which are now being dumped into the ocean. I read an article once called about hemp, the plant that could save the world.
Well, I think that's what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Here. This is one of the things for all of the really disheartening news that we have, there is heartening news. And it's nice to see that it comes out about something that a lot of people can kind of smile about.
Well, it's how would you say it? It's worthwhile for a farmer to grow it because he can average $35,000 an acre.
Right.
That's pretty good.
Yep, it is.
And it can because it's so valuable or it's so remunerative, you don't need subsidies.
Well, it's one of those plants that has a lot of use. What we're talking about here is fiber cloth, oil, food. Well, really, when you get down to it, cloth is fiber, so it's fiber. Oil, what's the oil for? Primarily food. But, we're talking about a bunch of different kinds of products that come from this one plant. It has a lot of use. There are very few plants that have cattails. I think there's no part of a cattail plant that doesn't have use. Most of it for food. Yeah. The leaves are too tough to eat, but you can use them for weaving things like seats for chairs.
Okay.
And the fluffy.
You can eat the tails.
The fluffy stuff, the seeds with the fluffy stuff. I don't know about
When the tails are coming up, you can eat them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can take the flowers, which are these little yellow things on a stem, and I've been told that you can take those and boil them and serve them like corn on the cob.
I'll be darned.
But even the little fluffy seeds that come out, you can take the fluff off and use it for insulation and so forth. And they used it during the Second World War for stuffing life jackets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway.
Well, there's one more takeaway here.
Yes.
In the 1930s,
yes.
cannabis came under attack in all its forms.
Yes.
Okay, hemp was criminalized and banned for nearly a century simply because it was in the same plant species as marijuana.
Yeah.
It is not marijuana, and is so low in psychoactive components that it cannot produce a marijuana high.
Unless you're willing to get sick smoking it.
Hemp competed not only with the lumber. This is what happened. This is why.
Yeah.
Hemp competed with the lumber industry, with the oil, cotton, petrochemical, and pharmaceutical industries.
Everybody wanted to put it under.
They didn't want the competition,
Yeah,
so
and
they chose this means of doing it by saying, "Hey, this is a drug."
Yeah, reefer madness.
Have you ever seen that?
I have never seen it.
That's
but
hilarious.
Well, on top of everything else, and you have.
It wasn't intended to be funny.
No, but it's funny. Louis Armstrong, got arrested for having marijuana.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, we should continue.
Yeah, this was another interesting article.
Yeah.
Could wooden buildings be a solution to climate change?
Well,
this is a very significant article.
Yeah, and it has been going on for a while, and we had people down here from Bensonwood to talk about engineered lumber.
Yeah.
And, they're talking about beams that are 90 feet long, and I'm talking, this is not a piece of stick. This is substantial stuff.
No, they kind of put bunches of wood together and they twist them and they turn them, and then after they're set, some of the wood is oriented this way and some of it's oriented that way.
Yeah. And it's all glued together. Although you don't even have to use glue.
There's somebody making them out of the nails.
You can do things with wood and heat and compression that bonds it.
So
there's a lot of things you can do.
A lot of things you can
anyway, you've read the title, right?
I've read the title, so.
Yeah. That article we just did, by the way, I didn't say this, came from TruthDig. This is from BBC. And since you've read the title, I'll read the content. Because making concrete emits so much CO2.
Which it does. It
really
does.
It really does. Some architects are arguing in favor of a return to wood as our primary building material. Wood from managed forestry actually stores carbon as opposed to emitting it, so atmospheric CO2 can be sequestered in wooden buildings. You can undo the damage of the concrete by building buildings out of wood.
There's some information here that elaborates what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. Well, it starts off by saying that a quart of wood contains around 3.5 tons of CO2, which is equivalent to 300 gallons of gasoline.
Which is more, by the way, than the wood weighs.
Yeah, it is, I guess.
It's weird. I want to point this out because I know there's probably people out there who are good at math and say, wait a minute, a quart of wood weighs less than 3.5 tons. How can it have 3.5 tons of CO2? Carbon atoms have a weight, atomic weight of 12. Oxygen has atomic weight of 16.
16, yep.
So CO2 is 12 in carbon and 32 in oxygen.
Okay.
So a good deal less than a third of the weight is carbon. The rest of it comes out of the atmosphere.
Okay.
So when you burn a cord of wood,
it
weighs a ton, you're going to get a lot of oxygen out of the atmosphere. And that's why it's, what you said, 3.5 tons. Yeah,
well, the bottom line is timber structures would allow us to draw carbon from the air.
That's right.
And store it in our homes and our offices.
That's right.
Well, the article's particularly talking about this cross-laminated timber.
Yes.
Okay, it's an engineered wood.
Yes.
Okay, the planks are made stronger by gluing them in layers, with each layer perpendicular to the other.
Which is kind of like how plywood is made.
Well, it's sort of like three-dimensional plywood.
Yeah.
It has integral strength in all directions, doesn't bow or bend. It looks like ordinary wood and can achieve anything concrete and steel can and more because it weighs 20% of that of concrete.
And even though it's wood,
Yeah.
it has better characteristics in fire than steel.
They said that. They said that.
I love
Because the steel weakens.
melts. Contrary to what Rosie O'Donnell says, steel melts in fire.
Well, even if it doesn't melt, it weakens
It
terribly.
weakens. We've seen pictures of sagged. We had a picture once on this show of two beams that ran across each other. One was wood, the lower one was wood, the upper one was steel. There had been a fire, the wood beam was charred, the steel beam sloped. So the wood beam supported the steel beam while it collapsed, and the steel beam went whoop like that. Okay.
Well, let's move along.
Well,
We've got
let's
another
do that.
image
that
coming
was
up.
from BBC. Now we've got a thing
image
from
coming
Clean
up.
Technica, and here is our champion. This is a world leader.
I'm trying to find
Come
my
on,
little
get her up
cursor
there.
again.
Get her up
Come
there.
on, you. Where the hell are you?
Ah, there you
we
go.
go. We're coming up
Okay.
there. There we go.
Trouble with computers today. This is an article from Clean Technica. And
There we
you
go.
see
Okay.
Greta Thunberg in the middle of a group
She's
of
right
people.
there.
That tiny person in the black dress is Greta Thunberg, who is, at the age of 16, a world leader, as opposed to Donald Trump, who is a world withdrawer.
Well, we'll be talking again about her later on.
We
on
will
the show,
indeed.
but she's a remarkable little woman, I'll tell you that.
That's right. What's
She looks like she's about 8.
well, what's the title you got here?
French labor union will support 350.org climate change protest. Here's what you can do.
What you can do, audience out there, 350.org is sponsoring a global week of climate protest beginning September 20th. Among its supporters is CGT, one of France's largest labor unions. 350.org has a blueprint for how all of us can organize family, friends, and co-workers to join in. And should I say that thing about odds here, or should I wait until she comes up again later on? I'll say it here.
Yeah, might as well.
I was interested. You know, Greta Thunberg, at the age of 16, is
She won't be 17 till January.
yeah, which means that this thing is going to happen before January.
Yeah.
You know, Greta Thunberg, at the age of 16, is a nominee for the Nobel Peace Prize. And as a nominee for the Nobel Peace Prize, I was thinking, you know, well, what are the odds that this little girl is going to be given the Nobel Peace Prize? And so I decided, you know, there are gambling places on the internet. You can get odds on anything that people are really interested in.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
I went to one of these gambling sites, which was actually not a gambling site. It was a kind of a meta site where you can see odds from different sites. And I looked, and they were giving 13 to 8 odds on Greta Thunberg, which means that the odds on her getting the Nobel Prize are substantially lower than 2 to 1. You're not going to make much money if you bet on Greta Thunberg and she wins. The number 2 person, it was 6 to 1. That was Jacinda Ardern, who's a
Who?
Jacinda Ardern, who is the Prime Minister of
New Zealand?
New Zealand.
Yeah, something like
And she is also an interesting woman, but this little girl has got, like, you know, it's not much above 1.5 to 1 on her. You know,
Wow,
getting the Nobel Prize, and it's like,
The odds makers are not wanting to take a lot of bets against her.
well, you know, these
gonna
are
pay off.
mutual bets. It depends on what people think.
Yeah.
And, you know, what's happening is the people who are betting on the Nobel Prize are overwhelmingly betting in favor of Greta Thunberg winning
Yeah.
it.
I can't get rid of that little box there, so.
Oh, that's this computer. Oh, come on. There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry about that, everybody.
Yeah, we were just blocking this little guy with the goatee there.
That's right. And Greta Thunberg, by the way, as we will see later in this broadcast, is not always dressed in black. Okay.
I never noticed that, but we'll be talking about her later. Very interesting lady, really is.
Fascinating, utterly fascinating. Far more interesting than
Well, let's move along
Some of the-
here.
some of the
we got an
people-
Oklahoma co-op here,
Oh yeah, this is from Clean Technica, and we are up to Friday, July 26th.
and this co-op targets the largest wind targets. It's going to make the largest wind, solar, and storage facilities in the U.S.
In Oklahoma, Western Farmers Electric Co-op has signed a power purchase agreement with Next Era Energy Resources. The Skeleton Creek project will supply the electricity. It will have 250 megawatts of wind power, 250 megawatts of solar power, and a 200 megawatt / 800 megawatt hour battery.
Well, that's something like 60 turbines or somewhere between 60 and 100 turbines.
And you know, this is infuriating.
This is the large.
This is large, but it's infuriating.
Why do you say that?
It's the largest of a hybrid station being built in the United States. And if you look at what's happening in Australia, last week we were talking about a single station that was in Northern Territories that was 10 gigawatts and 30 gigawatt hours. This thing is 10 gigawatts is 10,000 megawatts, and 30 gigawatt hours, which is 30,000 megawatt hours. This is 500 megawatts as opposed to 10,000, and 800 megawatt hours as opposed to 30,000. Is that the best we can do? Really? I mean, Northern Territories has a population that's less than half of the population of Vermont. And what are they going to do with that? They're going to, if they build that and they do what they're planning on doing, they're going to be supplying a lot of electricity to Singapore, and they're going to be making scads of money.
A cable that they're building right now to connect to
It's 1,000 miles long. But you know what? We've got a bigger project coming on later in this show. So I went through and I looked at the pipelines. The 2-year pipeline in the United States is 200 gigawatts for renewable energy, according to the according to FERC.
When you say pipeline, you're talking about
things that are being
metaphorical pipeline.
Yeah, things that are being developed, and it includes things that are being constructed, things that have just got their permits and nobody's actually gone out and started digging in the ground yet. But it also includes things that, you know, somebody says, I want to develop this, and they haven't got the permits, and they haven't, you know, but
but they're still in the
something
pipeline.
Is there. The pipeline for 2 years for the United States is 200 gigawatts. The pipeline for forever, actually, so it's a little bit unfair comparison, but it's going to be the pipeline for Australia is 100 gigawatts, half of the United States pipeline. But Australia has only got 25 million people as opposed to our 325 million.
A little bit of a difference there.
A little bit of a difference. For, you know, their per capita pipeline stuff is 6 times that of the United States. And why is that happening in a country that is anti-renewable as much as Australia
has been?
It's for a very simple reason. Because money talks, and they are looking at money. They aren't putting money like Ohio into trying to save nuclear and coal burning power. We're talking about a government of the United States.
It's all politics.
It's all politics, but the government of the United States wants us to return to slide rules and manual typewriters and buggy whips. This is so backward. And
control yourself.
Yeah, control yourself, George. When you know the people in power in the United States finally wake up and say, wait a minute, this is the biggest business opportunity in the history of mankind. Where are we in it? They're going to discover that there's lots of engineers in Australia who know how to build these things. There's lots of engineers in India. There's lots of engineers in China, and they're all homegrown.
Yep.
Where are the engineers in the United States? Well, there are engineers in the United States.
Yeah, most of them come from India.
And they're really good engineers in the United States, but, yeah.
Well, let's move along here. We got another picture coming up.
He wants to save you from my rant.
Another picture coming up.
Another picture coming up. There it is.
Let's get the picture up.
Yes, let's do that.
That is Notre Dame, and it's not about football.
No, it's not.
Notre Dame means, of course, Our Lady. So that's Our Lady of Paris. And by the way, for what it's worth, the Hunchback of Notre Dame rang the bells here.
Yeah.
Quasimodo.
Quasimodo. And it was in those 2 towers that are still there, but the spire in the middle has burned down, and that's why there's all that construction stuff going on. And the significance of this is where the heat wave is.
Well, the article's not about the cathedral, but they do mention it. So we'll talk about the article. Europe's heat wave is shattering temperature records, and cities are struggling to cope.
And this is not the heat wave we reported about the week before last.
No,
this is a new heat wave.
It's been hot in Europe all summer,
It's
all
been awful,
over Europe.
awful, awful, awful. This is from CNN. Europe is suffering through the latest heat wave in the summer and has seen at least 12 countries experience record-breaking temperatures. Scientists warn that the world should be expecting more scorching heat waves due to climate change. And we are going to say more about this in this broadcast.
As I've mentioned before, CNN usually does a pretty good job, and the CNN articles are very well worth looking at. This is one of them. There's videos. There's some good videos on the website. Some nice pictures, and no pictures of Quasimodo.
Oh, okay. So we should go on.
Did you read that?
I did.
Europe is suffering.
Yes.
Looks like the hottest July on record.
Yes.
Following the warmest June.
Right.
Okay. Belgium, Germany, the Netherlands.
Don't. It's a hoax.
And the UK, they've all reached record-breaking temperatures.
Yeah.
In Paris, they were expecting temperatures near 108 degrees. It's never been that hot in Paris.
108 in Paris.
There's a serious threat to Notre Dame. That's why they got a picture of it. The roof is at risk of collapse as the masonry dries out from the heat. Okay, so this is beyond what we're seeing there in the picture.
Yeah.
And and this is the takeaway. Heat waves could become the new normal for Europe.
And you know what? They're closing down nuclear plants because
because they couldn't.
They can't run them.
The water that they
cool them with.
The cooling water is too hot to get into the rivers.
Yeah. They can't they can't cool the plants, so they have to shut them down. So people need air conditioning, but they can't get it from nuclear power plants.
Interesting.
Isn't it?
Well, I think the article is in this week, but I just read an article yesterday about how nuclear power has never been economic.
Actually, we've got that in.
That's in this week.
Yeah,
that's an interesting article. Let's move along on this one.
This is Clean Technica talking.
They're another good outfit.
Yeah.
Ford, Honda, Volkswagen, and BMW negotiate their own deal with California. They go around the federals.
That's right.
Around the federal law.
California has the right to set its own emission standards, and other states are allowed to use those standards. While the Trump administration is trying to end that right, 4 big car makers have made a deal with California. It offers predictability.
Well, that's the word. The key word there is predictability.
Yes.
You would think that the manufacturers would want lower standards. But
easier standards.
Easier standards to meet, you know.
But what they really need is predictable standards.
These guys are dealing like 5 years ahead.
Yeah.
They're planning. They need to know what they're planning for.
Yeah, and
it's changing on Tuesday, and it's going to be different on Thursday. They don't know what to do.
Yeah, and they know one thing, and that is when the Trump administration ends, which it's going to do at some point, whatever administration comes in behind it is going to have to deal with climate change. And the longer you put this off, the more draconian dealing means. They don't want to have huge switches. I mean, think about this for just a minute, Tom. We've heard people talking for years about how climate change has to be addressed the way the Second World War was addressed.
Yeah.
Now think about the automobile industry in that. What happened when the Second World War started? The automobile industry was told, you are not allowed to make cars.
You're not going to see a 1943 Dodge.
No, you're not. Not unless some police department bought it.
They made about 1,000 of them for police departments and stuff. Yeah.
Staff cars for the U.S. Army, police departments, a couple of other things.
Civilian cars they just didn't make.
Civilian cars they did not make. And when this climate thing, if we put it off too long, the federal government of the United States is going to have to go to the auto industry and say, sorry, you can't build cars with internal combustion engines anymore. And if the auto industry isn't ready for that, then it's going to be in serious economic difficulty. Guide lamp division of General Motors.
They make headlights.
Headlights.
Yeah.
What did they do in 1942?
They made something else.
They signed a contract with the Defense Department to manufacture .45 caliber pistols.
Okay.
They'd never made them before.
Okay.
They made 1 million of them at under $3 each.
Wow.
Stamped. They were stamped. You can actually buy them, but not for under $3 each.
Not anymore, huh?
Not anymore, no.
Well, we've exhausted that one. Let's move along here. We got another picture coming up.
Yep, Saturday, July 27th.
Come on, you.
Come on, you. There it is. I see it. Click. I put this picture in because that is a UK hydraulic plant.
That's a park.
Yeah, it's also an electric power generator.
Well, the one down in Northfield is a park as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've been there. I haven't been there.
Oh, we should go down sometime.
Yeah, it's a nice. They say it's a pretty nice park.
It's a nice park. Yeah, it is. Okay, this is from Power Technology. What do you got for a title? You want me to read it?
Yeah, it is power. Renewable energy sources now generate 1/3 of UK energy.
Renewable energy sources generated 33% of the UK's energy in 2018, according to statistics published by the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. The proportion of energy from renewable generation rose by 3.8% from 29.2% in 2017 to 33% in 2018.
Well, the article says that coal generation fell by 25% in this period, and gas fell by 3.8%.
Yeah. I mean,
it's economics.
It's economics, and they're going to close down all of their coal-burning power plants within a couple of years. Okay.
Well, we got another one here on the same theme.
Absolutely.
Renewable natural gas close to taking off in the United States.
RNG, or renewable natural gas, is methane collected from waste and manure. It is a popular source of energy in Europe, but is just establishing itself in the United States. New York City joined a growing network of 530 RNG fueling stations run by a T. Boone Pickens company, Clean Energy Fuels. And
well, this is new in the United States. It's not new in Vermont. Oh, we've got cow power.
We've got cow power.
You got cow power.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's I call it my one luxury in life, is using cow power.
The lights still work.
The lights work fine. I just pay a tiny bit extra for energy, and they guarantee that I don't know how they do this, every single electron I get comes from renewable energy.
Amazing. They must have a very narrow opening for them to pass through.
I think it's hard to imagine how they do it.
Well, what they're talking about here with this gas,
yes,
okay?
I'm kidding.
The gas is for truck fleets looking for ways to cut expenses and reliance on diesel.
Yes.
So this renewable natural gas, or any natural gas, will run in a diesel truck with very little modification.
Well, yeah, okay.
Okay. And an anaerobic digester to turn methane from manure into higher grade natural gas is being installed in a farm in Vermont to be sent to a pipeline to Middlebury College.
Yeah, that's actually been going on, where they've been planning and developing this for a few years.
Yeah, McKibben's behind that. Bill McKibben's got
Middlebury
something to do
College is where Bill McKibben
he hangs his hat there.
Hangs his hat, but I've talked to people at Middlebury about this. I did an interview with them a couple of years ago.
Makes sense.
Green Energy Times, and yeah, the deal at Middlebury is they have a natural gas connection because a new pipeline was laid in. I don't know that they have actually got it yet, but the new pipeline was being laid in, and they were in favor of that connection because they could put renewable natural gas that they were buying from a farm 20 miles away into the pipeline and collect it.
That's exactly what this article is saying.
And that meant they didn't have to run trucks back and forth and use the energy driving those trucks. So it made the whole thing...
It's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And one of the things that I did was I looked at the internet and I thought, what is going on here with renewable natural gas? There are a lot of natural gas companies, not the people drilling, not the people fracking, but the people
delivering.
With pipelines, delivering and so forth, really interested in renewable natural gas, because any community that has a waste treatment plant can have
it's got potential.
Green Energy Times has an ad in it for renewable natural gas at the home level.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, it's a little bit difficult here in Vermont because...
we don't have the infrastructure.
No, it's because you need to have this thing heated a little bit.
Okay.
It can't get too cold
in
because
the wintertime.
The biological activity stops if it gets too cold. But there are various ways people deal with that, one of which is to dig a hole and put the biodigester down in the hole
into the earth.
Then let the earth heat it. Other things, light bulbs and things like that. Anyway, there you go.
Well, let's get a picture of pollution up here.
Okay, there's pollution. There it is.
Bingo.
Bingo, and here it is. And this is an item from The Guardian.
An interesting article, too.
Yeah.
War on science. Trump administration muzzles climate experts. And he's doing it.
Why is this a surprise?
Because it's a hoax.
Yeah, right. According to whistleblowers, Trump officials are censoring warnings about climate crisis, moving critical agencies out of Washington and enacting far-reaching changes in what facts regulators can consider and what they choose when they choose between industry and public good.
There's some words they're not allowed to use.
There are words they're not allowed to use. There are considerations. They're not allowed to think about whether this is important. You can't, when you put in a factory or you put in a power plant, you should be able to say, okay, this power plant is going to do $1 million worth of public good, but it's going to do $2 million worth of public damage, so we don't want it. But Donald Trump and his administration is saying, no, you can't think about that. All you can think about is the good that it does. Forget any damage.
Well, a takeaway from the article, the
Yeah.
last sentence in the article, it's
Yeah.
the continuous erosion of science. These changes are all pointing in the same direction.
Yeah.
To give special interests greater say.
And what's going to happen? If you deny science, you're denying reality.
Yeah.
So it's going to come back and it's going to bite them.
In the long run, it will.
It has to. There's no way around it. And that's why, who was the senator from South Carolina? Lindsey Graham.
Yep.
Lindsey Graham said you have to consider climate
It's
change.
interesting because he's a Republican.
He's a Republican and he's really behind Donald Trump in almost everything.
Yeah,
But in this
except
particular
for this
matter,
one.
he's not. And he's saying we're going to lose badly if we don't start dealing with reality. And he's right. Okay,
I can't get this thing.
you're having trouble with that thing again?
Yeah.
The cursor is right on my nose. And people back there behind the, at home can't see it. There you go. Now it's on us.
Yeah, but it's not going up on the screen.
Oh, it's not going up on
well,
that
no,
screen.
I'm looking at the wrong screen.
No, you got to click. You got to. Yes, you're looking at the wrong screen. Sorry, everybody.
Duh.
We're being a little bit behind.
Well, there's
on
a
our
fungus
thinking
among
today.
us.
I think that's it.
Okay, and that's what's coming up now.
Sunday, July 28th, Clean Technica. If you want to read the article, go to geoharvey.com, click on the calendar on July 28th, and you can find us pretty easily.
Funny you should mention that because in this particular case, and only this particular case, it's the wrong link.
Oh no!
It takes you to the right. It takes you to a Clean Technica website, but you got to hunt around to get that
Oh
article.
dear. Well, I'm going to have to fix that. Anyway, fungus.
A fungus is now affecting humans, and global warming may be to blame.
A fungus is beginning to infect human beings for the first time. 3 distinct strains appeared in 3 continents as the fungus had to adapt to ambient temperatures closer to body temperatures of mammals. It is also becoming resistant to drugs. Now, this is Candida auris.
This is kind of scary.
Well, it is
It
something
could-
I had
it-
never thought about this, but because the temperature in the environment is higher, these funguses that exist in the environment can now exist inside human beings.
That's exactly what's happening.
And this is not good.
They're accustomed to a lower temperature, but they've adapted to the higher atmospheric temperature, and in doing so, they are now able to reproduce within the human body,
Right.
and that's not good news.
Now, this is Candida, which means that it's a type of yeast, and it's the kind of thing that has given people yeast infections in the past.
Okay.
Which our bodies have got yeast all through them. This is a natural thing, but we can get, yeast infections in our intestines or on our skin.
Well, there's a lot that I could talk about, but I'm going to skip it because you've mentioned it already.
Okay.
We got another picture coming
We
up.
do
though.
indeed, and we've got an article here from Clean Technica.
Let's get the picture up if I can.
There you go.
There's the picture, and it's a hybrid of wind turbines and photovoltaic, which is not a bad mix.
No,
They
it's not.
don't interfere with each other.
Got a title?
Best trees to plant for global warming have 3 blades and generate electricity.
This is from Michael Barnard, who is very much in favor of wind power and has been for a long time.
Well, I was thinking about that. The article is a little bit dishonest. He's comparing apples with oranges.
Well, he is, but I think he's drawing an honest.
Well, he's got to make a
thing to-
living too.
Well, I think he's trying to make a point to people.
He is. He is.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit disingenuous, perhaps.
Well, the difference is that trees extract existing CO2 from the atmosphere. Turbines prevent new CO2 from being
entering
created in
yeah.
the air. You're still saving, but
Yeah.
you're saving it in different ways.
Let me read this. What is better, a forest or a wind farm? Calculations show a wind farm is about 8 times more effective at reducing CO2 annually than a forest. This is CO2 equivalent. It eliminates a bunch of other air and water pollution and reduces habitat destruction. And
Well, there's nothing saying you can't put up turbines in a forest. We've
That's
done
right.
it in Vermont, right over in
absolutely,
Searsburg.
absolutely. And it's done everywhere. But it was an interesting article to read, you know. Anyway, you want to go on?
Yeah, we got another one coming up, and this
is-
one scares me.
This is from the Weather
Let's
Channel,
see.
and yes, it is kind of scary.
Let's get us both up
Us
here,
up,
I guess.
yes.
Yeah. See.
There you go.
Amazon deforestation is fast approaching a tipping point. And those words, tipping point, scare me.
Yeah. New satellite data shows that the rate of deforestation is increasing in the Amazon, prompting fears that rainforest could reach a tipping point for which it could not recover from. The rainforest plays a vital role in stabilizing global climate, and part of the problem here is that the president of Brazil is very much in favor of getting everything he can out of that rainforest.
He is.
Now, when I was in college, which was, I think anybody who looks at the color of my beard will know was a long time ago, I remember I had a professor who was talking about the food that you could grow in the Amazon. And he said the soil in much of the Amazon depends on the shade that it gets from the trees to survive as soil. And direct sunlight on it
It's going to change the soil.
will change the soil and make it non-productive.
I'll be darned.
So
This doesn't really mention that.
no, it doesn't. But anyway, the studies may mention that, but the problem that we've got, you know, I'm sitting here thinking that we should be paying this guy to keep the rainforests intact.
We should be.
And actually, the wealthier countries should be going to the less wealthy countries and trying to get them to economically
Chip in.
to do their part. And if that means that if it's going to cost them money, we should be offering them money to make it attractive to do that.
Well, this
pretty
comes from the
concerned
Weather
about it.
Channel.
Yep.
There's an interesting 1-minute video. It's worth
Yep.
looking at.
Yep.
And the Weather Channel, by the way, their parent company is IBM. I
Yes.
never knew that.
Well, it's only recently.
Is it recent?
Yeah.
Well, in any case,
Which I think it
quick takeaway, some numbers here. The rate of deforestation has accelerated to about 3 football fields per minute.
Yes.
This month, it is on course to raise a swath of forest 3/4 the size of Windham County. It's about 600 square miles. And a rainforest, as we've already mentioned, plays a vital role in stabilizing the global climate by acting as a carbon sink.
Right. Okay, we're up to Monday, July
And
29th.
We've got a picture here.
9 items here and 18 minutes
Wait a
to do
second,
them.
where the picture? we got a
There's the
coming.
picture.
There we go.
There's the picture.
I had the wrong
And
picture.
ladies and gentlemen, that is a picture of a jet aircraft and contrails, not chemtrails.
Yeah.
And you can tell by looking at it, that is not chemicals.
I'll mention that.
That is water vapor. The water
I'll
vapor
mention-
comes
that's
out-
exactly what
yeah.
it is.
The water vapor comes out of the engines. The engines burn what is effectively kerosene, and it produces carbon dioxide and water, but the water is so hot, it's a gas, and it doesn't show up as what people call steam until it's condensed, and that happens long after the aircraft starts at about the tail of the aircraft, and if it had been chemicals coming out of there, it would have been going all the way to the source. This is contrails, not chemtrails.
Nobody said it was.
Well, I have manufactured products that were used as aerosols dropped from airplanes.
Okay.
I know
I
a
believe
little
that.
bit about them.
Yeah.
And they, silver iodate is one of them, and the reason they drop it is because you can grind it up really, really, really fine, and it is absolutely as close to insoluble as things can get.
Well, the people who are talking about chemtrails aren't talking about silver iodide. They're talking about nasty stuff that's going to change your head
Which
and
they
everything
say
else.
is they're dropping over Vermont. You can look up at the sky and you can see it, and they don't tell you how that stuff that's 35,000 feet up is going to settle on Vermont, because by the time it settles, it'll be blown halfway to England. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm ranting again. What do you got here for a title? Do airplanes...
Are we still on this one?
Yes, we are.
Do airplane contrails add to climate change? Yes, and the problem is about to get worse.
Scientists say contrails contribute to climate change by trapping heat that radiates upward from the Earth's surface. A study published in the journal Atmospheric Chemistry and Physics suggests that global warming effect will triple by 2050 as air travel grows. And you know what, Tom?
Well, it's an optical thing. They're reflecting.
It's reflecting heat back to the Earth. The thing is, do you really believe there's going to be jet airplanes operating the way they do today in 2050?
No.
And I don't either. I think, they're developing those long extension cords. Everybody's going to be
the ones
electric.
that stretch.
The ones that stretch. They're going to have electric aircraft. They were already ordering electric aircraft.
Well, we've talked about it on the show,
Yep.
and the articles keep popping up.
They do. And what I'm thinking is, okay, I don't know how they're going to get aircraft from New York to London without using jet fuel, unless, of course, they use some other
Well,
kind
right
of-
now, the electric planes are all short run.
Yes,
Hour,
they are.
hour and a half,
Yeah.
between Seattle and Vancouver and stuff like that.
Yep. Okay. That was from
NBCnews.com.
NBCnews.com, and our next item is from Green Tech Lead.
This is a good one, too. Renewable energy accounted for 20.3% of electrical generation in the United States. Now, this is growing.
It's growing. Renewable energy sources accounted for 20.3% of net electric generation in the U.S. during the first 5 months of 2019, according to data published by the U.S. Energy Information Administration, which is always wrong. The which is always wrong part I inserted. Renewable energy outproduced both coal and nuclear for the period. The EIA has admitted that its information is wrong because it undercalculates the contribution of solar power. And in this particular case, I think that would mean that instead of being 20.3%, it might be 20.7%. Or something along those lines.
Well, in this particular case, just to put it in perspective, this 20.3% is the second place among major generating sources.
Yes.
Okay? And it's exceeded only by natural gas.
Right.
And that's not going to last forever.
No, it's not. Natural gas has still grown quite a lot in the last few years, but
we're going to run
we
out.
were talking about the pipeline for the future. Their pipeline is running down.
Yeah.
I mean, the actual gas plants being built are the numbers declining.
In many situations, they're not getting anywhere near the amount of natural gas they predicted in a particular play.
That's right. Okay, our next item is from Renew Economy.
This is the one I referred to before.
Yes.
Nuclear energy is never profitable. New study slams nuclear power business case.
Yeah.
Well, it's politics.
A new study from DIW Berlin, a leading German economic think tank, that's an economic think tank, not an energy think tank, found that nuclear power has never been viable. The average 1,000 megawatt nuclear power plant built since 1951 resulted in an average economic loss of $5.34 billion.
Well, we've never seen the true picture. Even here in America, the insurance is paid for by the government.
They're uninsurable. These plants.
That's why the government pays for it.
The insurance industry cannot cover the cost.
They don't want to touch it.
No, they don't. It's not that
So
they
it's a
don't want to.
subsidy.
They cannot
They
put
can't.
enough money aside to cover the loss of one meltdown,
Okay.
a worst case meltdown.
Well, here's what the article says, and it's true. Most nuclear plants have been heavily subsidized by governments,
Yeah,
often motivated by military purposes.
Yes.
Sure, they make plutonium.
yeah.
They're making bombs. Further, nuclear energy is by no means clean. Its
No.
radioactivity will endanger humans in the natural world for over 1 million years.
Yes,
Nuclear power will remain unprofitable into the foreseeable future.
yes. I agree.
So
And
it's
as a
been
matter of
kind of a
fact-
scam.
Yeah, well, it's been not just kind of a scam, it's been a grand scam.
Well, if they wanted to build, they wanted the plutonium. They didn't want the people to know they wanted the plutonium.
And people were willing to bribe Walt Disney to have him tell everybody how great it was.
Yeah, he did.
Really, you should see some of those old Walt Disney things. It's amazing. We're going to put radioactive material out in the cornfield so that we can track where the nutrients go in the human body.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
I know
Okay,
you're
we're
not.
up to July.
We got another picture coming up here.
Tuesday, July 30th, and this is from CNN. And that man, by the way, is
Oh, it is the picture. Yeah.
it is the picture. There
No,
it
I
is.
just don't have it. There we go.
That man who is planting.
Come on,
Click
picture,
again.
come up.
Double click. There you go.
Yeah. Whoop.
Try it again.
Can't win today.
No, it's one of those days.
There we go,
you
by Jove.
That man is the prime minister of Ethiopia, which is why that.
Well, he's wearing a
came
tie. That's not tree
From,
planting
yeah,
clothes.
it's true. Yeah, his name is Abiy Ahmed.
Abiy Ahmed.
Yeah,
Ahmed.
Ahmed. Okay, we pronounce everything as well as we can here, but we never get it right when we're doing Ethiopian. Okay, what do you got for a title?
Ethiopia plants more than 350 million trees in 12 hours. That's a lot of trees.
In 12 hours. Ethiopia planted more than 353 million trees in 12 hours on Monday, which officials believe is a world record. Probably is. A burst of tree planting was part of a wider reforestation campaign called Green Legacy, spearheaded by the country's Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed. And you know, one of the things that I find a little bit troubling about this is they didn't do this in 12 hours. They took seedlings that they already had
Yeah.
and had distributed,
Yeah.
and everything was all taken care of, and everybody knew where they were going to go, and they were lined up so that they could do this world
They
record.
wanted to hit that record.
They wanted to hit that record, and they took all those plants and put them in the ground in 3 hours, and yes, it's a record, and yes, it's impressive.
Well, the old record was 66 million. So
They
knew-
kind of outdid it.
Well,
This is-
they're going to outdo themselves. This is coming up. Their
Yeah.
goal for the whole season is for them to plant 4 billion trees during the end of the year.
They want to have Ethiopian forests restored. It was a third
Well,
forest.
that's the next paragraph sentence right here. Less than 4% of Ethiopia's land is forested, compared to 30% at the end of the 19th century.
Yeah. We should press ahead. We've got an item here from the West Australian, and this is another thing that I find absolutely mind-boggling.
Planned Pilbara renewable energy hub scales up, and I'll tell you what Pilbara is after you read
The
this.
capacity of a giant renewable energy project proposed for Western Australia has been scaled up by more than 1/3 of its former capacity. The hybrid wind and solar development of the Asian Renewable Energy Hub has had its capacity increased from 11 gigawatts, which is 11,000 megawatts, to 15 gigawatts.
Yep.
And this is just,
This is pretty big.
it's astonishing. It really is.
It'd be a good thing, and we don't have one, to have a map of Australia to put up on the screen.
Yeah.
In any case, this Pilbara is the name of an area of Australia.
Yeah.
And it's a large, dry, thinly populated region of the north of Western Australia, which is a very large state in Western Australia.
Western Australia is about the size of the United States east of the Mississippi River.
Okay.
This is huge. It's absolutely, and it has a population of about 2.5 million people.
Well, it's got vast mineral deposits,
Yes.
particularly iron ore, a lot of iron ore.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what do I say? This particular energy hub that they're going to build is approximately 1,000 square miles of hybrid wind and solar.
Yep.
It's big.
Yep.
It's going to give them 15 gigawatts of capacity, as we said. That's able to generate about 25% more than they're currently generating for the whole year.
This is 25% more power, more energy than the state uses.
The whole state.
The
exactly.
whole state.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, we have to move on because we've got 4 items in 7 minutes.
No, we got Greta
again. This
Greta
is-
Thunberg. I got a picture.
Yes, you
I'm
do.
gonna bring it up.
This is from CNN.
Better picture of her.
There you go.
There she goes.
That was easy.
She looks pretty cocky in that picture.
She does.
Greta Thunberg will sail across the Atlantic on a zero-emissions yacht for the UN Climate Summit.
Climate activist Greta Thunberg will cross the Atlantic on a zero-emission sailboat on her way to speak to the UN Climate Summit on September 23rd. They will set off mid-August, which is during the hurricane season, and that's kind of
Yeah.
chancy,
Yeah.
from an undisclosed location in the UK. She
Well,
had
that guy in the picture is the captain of the
right.
of the yacht.
The guy on the left, and the taller man is her
That's
father.
her father. Yep.
And what we're looking at here is Greta saying, I'm not going to fly to that because there's too much emissions from flying.
That's just exactly
I'm
what
not
it
going to
says.
go by ship because there's too many emissions by ship.
Yep.
And she could have possibly gone on a
What
merchant
is
ship.
jet ski?
Merchant ship.
Merchant ship.
You can get accommodations
Yeah, I know
on
you
merchant
can.
ships. Okay, we have to move on, Tom. We've only got about 5 minutes.
Well, her appearance in New York City is going to be the first stop in a string of engagements in the Americas over the next few months.
Yeah,
So
she's going to South America.
Canada, Mexico, South America.
Yep.
She's going to be all over the place.
Right. Our next item, this is Wednesday,
This
July 31st.
is the last day. We got 3 left. Speak quickly.
From CNN.
Coke and Pepsi abandoned the plastics lobby. This is interesting.
It is. Coca-Cola and PepsiCo, two major sellers of plastic bottles, have made sweeping sustainability commitments. Now they're stepping away from the plastics lobbying group. The association took positions that, quote, were not fully consistent with our commitments and goals, end quote, Coca-Cola said in a statement.
Well, this is CNN. As I mentioned before, they usually have good websites.
Yep.
This particular case is a 4-minute video that's worth watching.
Yep.
And also there's a link there to another video, which is called Amazon's Incredible Vanishing Cardboard Box. That's interesting watching, too.
Okay, we've got an item here from CNN, which is about Greenland, and that picture is the mountains in Greenland.
It certainly is. Let's get it up.
It doesn't really show the snow cap, which is gigantic. But what do you have for a title?
Greenland is melting in a heat wave. That's everyone's problem.
Okay, this is the same heat wave in Europe. The extreme heat bowled over Europe last week.
Same heat wave, yep.
Smashing records in its weight. Now that heat wave has started, which started in the Sahara, has rolled into Greenland, where more records are expected to crumble in coming days. This has effects across the globe. The amount of water that this one heat wave will melt in Greenland is enough that you would be able to see it as global ocean level increase on a ruler. This is about a half a millimeter.
It's not millimeters. We're talking.
It's about a half a millimeter.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's
so
about 1/8 of an inch.
No, half a millimeter, not a half a centimeter, half a millimeter.
Oh,
This is
very little.
Very
bit.
little, but
very,
it's
very
even
little bit.
so, it's just one heat wave, one island, and it's raising the
There's
water.
an interesting video on the site. It's
Yeah.
a bunch of sled dogs hooked up to a sled, but
Yes.
they're in water.
Yeah, we've seen that before.
We've seen that same picture.
Okay.
A lot of pictures on this site, so it's worth looking at.
Okay, we've got one last item, which is
I
from
think we
Clean
do.
Technica.
I think we do. I gotta move it up so I can read it. Turning heat into light can make solar panels 80% efficient.
Okay, scientists at Rice University are turning heat into light, which can be used to make electricity. They say their research could ultimately lead to solar panels that are 80% efficient, nearly 4 times the efficiency of the panels that are commercially available today. What that means is using one site, which could be your roof of a former farm field, huge site in the Western Australia, you can get 4 times as much electricity.
Well, now the solar panels are just using the light that impinges upon
Right.
them, and the heat that's in the sun is wasted.
Yes.
And this article is about figuring out how to capture that heat.
Yeah, and they had a
They'll
picture.
do it.
They had a picture here which was kind of interesting, but I didn't use it because it was just impossible to see what it was.
I saw that picture.
Yeah. And as Tom said, what they're doing is they are taking the heat and converting it to light and then absorbing the light and turning that to electricity. And they're talking about 80% efficiency. You know, that's higher efficiency than solar thermal water panels have.
It's inevitable. And it's, any engineer looking at this thing and say, we're wasting all that heat, how can we capture it?
Absolutely. And the one thing that I will say to people is don't say we've got much more efficient panels coming in the future, I'm going to wait. Because we can't do that. We don't know that these things are going to appear.
They will appear, but we just don't know when.
When, yeah.
It's not going to be next week.
Okay, and you know what's happened with the history of fission. They started working on that in about 1950. And here it is 70 years later, and they still haven't got it.
Haven't got it.
So we need to act on with what we've got available.
Well, save money while the sun shines. You know?
Yeah, and these things, I figure, okay, they'll probably appear 7 years from now, and in that time, we've got to change things. So,
It looks like we've run out of time.
we've run out of time, and we've run out of things to talk about. So I'm going to
There's
suggest
always things to talk about.
have a perfectly lovely week. Hope you come
Adios.
back next time.
Y'all come back now. You hear?
Bye bye.